Welcome to Expat Chat. This is John Colditz with Fluency Corp, and I'm here today with Marika Holmqvist, who traveled to the U.S. from her native Finland and travels the world as a professional violinist. So welcome, Marika.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So looking forward to learning from you and learning from your experience. For those of you joining us, Expat Chat is an informal interview that we talk to people of all nationalities. The only commonality is that we have lived in a foreign country for our jobs. And Marika's job is different than anybody that I've talked to before in this venue. Marika is a professional musician. So Marika, tell us about what you do and how you came to be doing it.
Well, I'm a violinist, and I've been freelance for over 25 years. And I'm specialized in a field called early music. So I play the Baroque violin and the Baroque viola.
Baroque?
Yep. And so I travel around the world playing concerts. I've performed in over 30 different countries by now during the scope of my career. So that's
great.
it.
And Richard Maskey is joining us from London. And thank you, Richard. Thank you for. If you're joining us, please put in the chat where you're coming in from. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So you not only play Baroque music, but you actually use Baroque era instruments, correct?
I do, yeah.
So are these antique instruments, or are they made to the specifications that Baroque instruments were?
Both. They're people use old instruments and also newly built instruments that are made in a kind of in a Baroque setup.
Okay.
And my violin is actually from the 1720s.
Wow.
And we know that it's anonymous and it's a nice violin. So I got it for a good price because it actually wasn't what the sticker said inside the violin. And but we know that it's either from the Flemish or the French school of violin making from the time, because there's an element in the violin called purfling, and it's half in my violin is half whalebone and half wood. So those two violin building schools were the only ones in that time that did that sort of thing. So it's my violin is either French or Flemish, but we don't know. It would be nice to know.
So to do what you do, you have to be as much of a music historian as a performer.
Correct. That's a nice way to putting it. It's kind of like art historians actually can go to the paintings and they can scrape a little sample of the paint and kind of find out more about that.
Okay.
We can't do that because there are no recordings.
Okay.
But what we can do is to go to the sources, read a lot about the history of the composers and the style of playing and techniques and instrument making and things, and through that kind of we have created, so to speak, this kind of field of early music that we try to be as true as we possibly can to the composers and how the music would have been done in that time and use that kind of instruments. So in certain cases, it's we have to rebuild those instruments from scratch because they don't exist anymore. But we're trying to stay as true as possible.
So we have a question about how Baroque music crosses cultures. Um, is there particular regions of the world where Baroque music is more popular or less popular? It can
Well,
be both.
that's a very interesting question. Um, the base of a lot of majority of folk music, I mean, of Baroque music, comes from folk music,
Okay.
and and so you could a dance, a folk dance that is danced still in, for example, Spain, in some areas of Spain,
Okay.
uh, is 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 Baroque music, you know. But yeah, so it's the base is like all the dance, Baroque dance is all folk music based. So in a way it's everywhere, still, because it's so I don't know in which parts, yeah, like folk music exists everywhere. So
So if we talk about contemporary music, especially in the US, we have very different genres, everything from rap to rock to country.
yeah.
Are there different within the period? Does it how does that break down by different areas, things like that?
Well, for example, there were different schools of Baroque music at the time. So there was the French school of playing, there was the British school of playing, there was the German school of playing, there was the Italian school of playing. So those kind of styles were, they were the prominent styles.
Okay.
And of course, there was then Latin American Baroque too. But um, the English, German, French, and Italian were the kind of the main big styles of playing,
Okay.
and they're all very different from each other. They use
Yeah,
different kind of
and
ornamentation and even different types of equipment and different types of instruments were used for the different styles. And yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So and I know you've traveled the world. When you what how did you choose your career path? How did you choose to be a Baroque musician,
Well,
violinist in particular?
ever since a little girl, I was always very interested in history.
Okay.
And my family had a lot of antiques, and I really treasured those old things very much. And when kids would come and my friends would come and play, I was like, I told them always, here you have to be very careful because this vase is sitting there, so don't be very careful walking past that vase. So and then my grandpa, he was interested in restoring things. So together with him, we started. I was there. I was fortunate to be with him, and when he was restoring chairs, these antique 18th century chairs and things like that. So I kind of followed that and became so like from the get go. I was kind of submersed in this kind of old um, history in a way.
Okay.
And so then when I got into music and knew that I would become a professional musician, when I was studying started studying seriously in my teenage time, um, I kind of chose repertoire kind of naturally. I didn't want to do too much of the romantic stuff, but I really liked the classical era and the Baroque era. pieces, and I was interested in that older style a lot.
Okay.
And so at some point I just decided to jump on it and audition to this school in the Hague in the Netherlands, and that's how it started.
Okay. So
Yeah.
is Northern Europe more conducive to playing this type of music than say if you grew up in the U.S.?
I mean, of course, in a way, because there we still have the churches that this music was performed in. We have 17th century venues and 18th century venues, and these beautiful churches still um, have the original organs in them. So we know more how it sounded,
Mm-hmm.
and also, there are Baroque opera theaters in Sweden and in Czech Republic, and yes, so it's so that's there. It's fortunate that that still exists, and of course here we don't have that here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so do you play mostly in the U.S.? How I know you travel a lot,
Yeah.
but where do you what parts where do you travel to? Where do you find most of your audiences for the style of music that you play?
Well, I should also say that the American uh, kind of the revival Baroque um, movement was here maybe even previous to the European one. So academically, people in the States have really started early too. So it's not that it only exists there; it has also existed here for a long time. And it's just that it's kind of maybe in the Europe it got further maybe quicker
Okay.
because of um, the existing Baroque environments. So
Okay.
it was kind of easy, maybe easier to kind of fit in quicker than
Okay.
here.
So,
But to answer your question, yeah, so I play a lot in the States. I play on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in Midwest. Um, in Europe, and Texas too. I've now recently gotten some work in Texas, and then I travel around Europe playing. I'm play quite a bit in Germany, and I have a regular job in Iceland that I've done for many years, and Finland, of course, my own country, and yeah, so I get around.
so when you travel internationally, the what how do you is communication easy? Is it challenging?
Well, it can sometimes be a little challenging because um, different cultures comes to play when you do rehearsals, for example.
Hmm.
And there are different ways of rehearsing in different countries, so you have to always kind of, as a traveling musician, you have to always kind of adapt a little bit and kind of feel the room, so to speak. That I can't necessarily come with my American ways of rehearsing when I go to Finland, for example, or vice versa. So it's interesting in that it keeps it
Okay.
interesting. Yeah.
So it's more of a cultural difference as far as
Yeah.
how people communicate as opposed to what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, when I came to Finland again to direct some projects, and I had lived quite a long time in the States, and here people kind of do a more kind of a democratic rehearsing style, and when I came to Finland, I had forgotten about how they do it there, and I came in as a director, but I wanted to kind of include people into the kind of music making process,
Uh-huh.
and it did not go down well because they were expecting me actually to. I mean, it went well in the end, but you know, we had a little bit like difficulties in the beginning to find kind of common ground, because they actually expected the director to come and really tell them exactly what should be done and how, and you know, um, so that was very interesting to me to come back to my own country, you know.
So how uh how young were you when you left Finland?
I left when I was 19. I went to Sweden to study
Okay.
music, um, and I also at some point I kind of got burned out and decided I would put my violin aside, and I applied to study art history and archaeology in Sweden,
Okay.
and I actually got into both these universities that I applied for, and decided that I would go with the art history thing. So I took a little break from playing
Okay.
and studied art history at the Gothenburg University for some time. And then I started missing my violin too much, so I went back. But yeah, so I left at 19 to study in Sweden and stayed there for some time. Then I came back to Finland, worked as a member of an orchestra, and then decided I would give this early music thing a try. So then I moved to Holland
Okay.
and lived there for 9 years. And then after Holland, the Netherlands, I moved to the US, and I moved from Amsterdam to New York. So from Amsterdam to New Amsterdam, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So did you learn Dutch while you were there?
I did. Yeah.
So that's so my background with language is working with refugees in Europe. Learned a little bit of Italian, a little bit of French while we were working in those places. Uh, Dutch is a language that is the place where it really scared me.
Yeah.
I looked at the signs and I had no idea what anything was.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the when you first came to a new country, whether it's the Netherlands or the U.S., what was communication like for you?
Well, in the Netherlands, it's people tend to really want to speak English, and even if I eventually learned the language and spoke it fluently, it was very hard to keep a conversation with a Dutch person going in 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 Dutch, you know,
Okay.
because they wanted to. They just, I don't know why, but it's just in their character that they usually switch very quickly. If you're a foreigner, then we just speak English.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes you have to really like stubbornly put my foot down, like to speak Dutch, to keep on, even if they talk to you in English, and I just keep speaking back in Dutch,
So it's not just with Americans that they do that.
No, it's actually with everybody.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's so, and of course in my school was international, the Royal Conservatory in The Hague, and a very, very, very international department, the early music department. People from all over the world was there, so everything was in English. All the school, all the classes, everything was in English. So yeah, so that was my, and of course moving to Sweden, my first language is Swedish, so that was not a problem.
Okay.
So yeah, so and then coming here, yeah, English, so it was easy.
Okay. So tell me about what it's like growing up in Finland.
It's a great place to grow up. I mean, it's a great country, and it's kind of idyllic, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I come from this small town, 35,000 people,
Wow.
on the coast, and it's an old town. Was founded by the Swedish king in I believe in 1623, if I remember it correctly. And I don't know if you've heard of Queen Christina of Sweden, this famous Baroque queen,
Okay.
and it was her dad who founded my hometown. And so this little town is very special. It's beautiful, but it's also, we have a conservatory. We had a Scandinavian art academy. We have good hospitals. We have one of the best orchestras, chamber orchestras in the country is based there. So we get a lot of incredible artists coming through. So culturally, it's a very rich town. So a special little place. Yeah.
That's great. What are some of your favorite things about where you live now?
Where I live now, well, I split my time between Philly and Fort Wayne, so there are great things about those two places. Here in Fort Wayne, I have a beautiful house and garden, and it's a really nice town. It's about 250,000 people, and for a Midwestern smallish city or mid-sized city, it's unusual because there are a lot of bike paths here. Midwest tends to be very, very car driven,
Yes.
but here actually I can bike to the grocery store and to do my errands, and to the farmers market, and there are all these river greenways, and we have actually 3 rivers here, so we can plop our kayaks in the rivers, and so that's really lovely here, actually. And of course, Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia. There's no city like Philadelphia. I mean, it's this incredible place, complex, beautiful, artsy, just one of the greatest places in the world, in my opinion.
Cycling is a little different in Philadelphia. That's where I'm based.
It is, yeah, it is different. But also it's a cyclable city because it's flat, and they have a lot of bike paths and things like that. So, and of course the Schuylkill River is there. There are beautiful bike paths along that, and yeah. So yeah.
So, of the countries that you travel to, any particular anything stand out as far as things you didn't expect? It could be positive or negative of any of your travels.
Any of my travels? Well, I mean, I I've traveled to quite a few very unique places where I performed,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them being Damascus, Syria,
Okay.
and we played in this. I was part of a organization called European Union Baroque Orchestra. This was back in '97. I was much younger then. And this is an organization. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore, but it went on for many years, and they collected young people from different parts of Europe to join this orchestra for a year, and always a year at a time. And they were auditions, so they you came to this place and then you auditioned and so in my year when I did it, we went to incredible places. We went to the Middle East, we went to North Africa, we went to Gaza even, and Israel, and from Finland to Tunisia. Like it was like this incredible contrast of places. And in Damascus, we played in this ancient spice market downtown, and to be playing your concert and then being surrounded by still the smells of all these spices. I mean, there were no spices at the moment, but you could still smell the scent in the air.
Wow.
And it was just this incredible experience to be visiting something so ancient as Damascus. And as a history nerd as I am, to be actually standing there on those ancient streets, and then hearing the songs, the chants coming out of the mosques, and you just had to pinch yourself. Is this really true? Am I really here? Kind
Yeah.
of situation. I remember Gaza was quite quite interesting and kind of shocking and special. We were the first Western orchestra to be allowed to come and play there. And it took a long time for us to get through the borders.
Okay.
So we sat there for hours and hours. It was quite tricky to get in. And so I was reading my book and just like as a kid, you're on these tours and you just like plop your butt on the, bus or plane, or I didn't really think much about, where we're going. You just go with the flow kind of. So I was just sitting there and minding my own business and reading, and then finally we're through, and then suddenly I just started looking like, where are we now, and dropped my book, because it was just amazing to see the juxtaposition of this incredible, beautiful part of the world, and then with so much poverty and yeah, it was tough. It was tough to see all that, and we visited this music school there that was specializing in preserving ancient Palestine music, and it was very interesting to visit that school, and it was cute. The kids, we were interested in what they were doing, but the kids were trying to kind of prove to us. They were practicing very loudly in the next room, their Mozart concertos and things like that, to kind of prove that they're doing Western music too. And it was very cute, but that was an incredible experience to be able to see that, like sad and also great.
So it sounds like it didn't really resonate with you at the time, that in hindsight you understood a lot more of why it took so long to get through that border. Is that?
Yeah, I understood it afterwards, but when you just kind of going with the flow, and didn't really realize at the time, like, how big this happening, like us coming there, actually how big that was. And we definitely could feel it afterwards on this. Of course, we played for the creme of the creme, of Palestine. We played at the Royal Palace, and but still, these people, they ran afterwards to us, when we were going to the bus. And I remember, people came, like, ran after. They wanted to just like say something, and they said, one woman came to me and she said, "Thank you for bringing this symphony." She didn't even know the word concert, but she said, thank you. It means so much that you brought the symphony here, and that was, so it meant something that we played there.
Yeah. That's gotta feel good.
Yeah. I also got a marriage proposal.
Oh, tell me about that.
By a man.
Turn off this light.
Came afterwards and said, yeah, he was gonna. He talked about giving me rugs, and I can't quite remember how it went, but he was ready. He had the rugs ready, and he was gonna suggest.
So the rug was an engagement ring.
Kind of, I guess. Yeah.
So how did someone pull you aside and clue you in onto what he was actually asking?
I think there was an interpreter too. It's a long time ago. I can't quite remember the exact details, but that happened. I mean, there has been quite a few times during my career that, the post-concert interactions with audience members there are some pretty interesting encounters. Yeah.
So in a parallel life, you could have been nobility in
maybe. Yeah.
In Damascus.
Who knows? Yeah.
any others that stand out as far as just interesting situations?
Interesting situations. Well, when I was performing in Canada, um, instead of flowers, I got a bag full of homegrown marijuana.
Really?
Yes.
That must have made you popular with the group.
Yeah, this hippie woman, she came to me, like, I don't have flowers, but I grew this myself. Here you go. Yeah, I said
That's great.
thank you very much. I'm not into that, but I'm probably some of my colleagues are. So I'll, yeah. Yeah.
So, is there any particular advice that you would give someone who, well, before I go there, can you tell me about the process of immigrating? You immigrated to Sweden, which is next door, and then across the sea. Is What was it easy to move from Finland to Sweden, or did you have to go through a lot of governmental
No,
procedures?
nothing. It was very easy. Um, no, I didn't have to do anything. I just moved. And the same from the net for the Netherlands. I didn't have to do anything there.
Because of being EU countries,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, what about the process of coming to the U.S.? Was that smooth? Is there anything that stands out?
It was hard. Um, I, my first thought was to come here as a doctoral student, and I applied, and they liked my proposal and would have liked to have me, but um, back in the day, 18 years ago, doing a doctorate in early music here, on Baroque violin was not really an option yet.
Okay.
And so I would have, for example, had to take lessons with a modern teacher, which is in itself is not a bad thing. I have a lot to learn from modern violinists too. But most importantly, they did not have funds, so I would have had to finance my doctoral studies out of pocket, and of course
Okay.
that was not an option. So because also it was shocking how much more expensive it is here to learn to
Yeah.
education in general. So yeah, so I scrapped that idea and thought, well, I'm just gonna come as a violinist, and I didn't quite understand what it takes to get a visa, not to mention a green card that came much later, but what it took to get immigration status as an individual when you're not affiliated with an institution
Okay.
or a work or corporation or something like that.
Hmm.
That was hard. Yeah.
So, I can only imagine. We were working in London, but it was for, it wasn't even a year. But the amount of challenge to get into the UK, we felt like, we had to prove that we did have an exit strategy. We were planning on leaving. Whereas, the in Sicily, they seemed like they were so happy to have us there. So
Yeah.
come spend money here.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about the pandemic time? Because I know as a professional musician, that's got to be hard. How is there anything about that time that you'd like to share anything about?
It was really hard, of course, financially. Um, for many people who didn't have a partner like I have, my love is he's an engineer, so he had worked during the pandemic, which was really fortunate for us.
Huh?
But there were colleagues who both of the both the couples would both be musicians, and then there was no income, so
Yeah.
extremely hard. And this lasted for over 2 years. And I don't know about other states, but in Pennsylvania, unemployment was very messed up, the whole process.
Yeah.
So I actually only received my unemployment money a couple of years later.
Wow.
When I actually would have needed it during the time when the pandemic was on, but it happened much later than that. So I didn't receive a single cent
Wow.
during that time. And so that was one aspect of it, how hard it was. But another more kind of a personal aspect was that it's as an artist, it was really soul crushing to
Yeah.
not be able to perform anymore, and to give, and to use your creativity as a musician. And there were some organizations who really tried to create this kind of streaming concerts where I would, the members of the group would play their own line from this particular piece, and then sound engineer would just put everything together, and we were all in little boxes, on the screen playing. And I mean, in a way, it was nice because we got to see our colleagues, and we got to, in a kind of backhanded way, make music together.
Yeah.
But boy, I'm telling you, John, those recordings were just soul crushing, because there I am in my living room playing to the microphone like some middle line from without any people, like just myself, like playing into the camera a line from this piece. And it just felt so unnatural to not have my people around me, and to make music together, to create this thing together, as we do every time in a concert. And it was just awful. And
I've played just enough to understand that when you're playing for an audience, the energy of the audience, it's very different than when you're in a practice room.
absolutely. So not only it was the lack of your fellow musicians making these pieces, making them alive, and creating this beauty together, but also you didn't have the audience members there to that you can react towards. And so that was hard. And I know that many of my colleagues got very depressed during that time because of the financial difficulties, and also also kind of the emotional thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. And it took a long time, actually, when concerts then started coming back. It took a long time for all of us to kind of get used to it again, because
Yeah.
it was not the same anymore. Nothing was the same. The world
Right.
wasn't the same. So, and also having to play with masks on, or
Yeah.
sing with masks on, to and that also for a long time. And of course we did it because you have to
Right.
protect people and protect yourself. But just like that takes away a lot of expression too when you're covered like this, and it's hard on the natural breath of
Oh, yeah.
and especially for singers. I mean, I can't even imagine how hard that must be, singing into a mask.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been the pandemic was tough, but also the recovery has been
Right.
tough. Yeah.
Is there anything that's different in a positive way that you learned during that period?
That's an interesting question. um, I learned to appreciate my colleagues even more
Yeah.
than before, and I'm maybe more forgiving to myself, and but also like more understanding and more forgiving in a way of mistakes and things like that, like little
Mhm.
things that um, happen always, but that could be earlier, like crushing, and and now it's just kind of like we are so happy to be able to be back and make this music happen again together, so
And to be
so
able to travel again.
yeah. And it has yeah, taught us, I think, like kindness and more understanding, and kind of that kind of feeling that we're in it together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that this was a global pandemic that has helped people across borders? And if you don't have a sense for this, that's perfectly fine. Um, but where a lot of disasters have been fairly localized, and I know in a local disaster, it really brings the community together.
Hmm.
This was worldwide, and I know what I'd like to think the outcome will be, and I don't know if we'll even know for years. Um, but I'm hoping that it brings the world together a little bit. That we know that we're all in this together.
Yeah, I know it. I like to think like that too, but in some cases it has also brought up a lot of ugly sides in humankind.
Yeah,
And that was disappointing, I think, that
yeah,
that it's not necessarily that we are all in it together and we're all helping each other, but that people took sides, and it become ugly at
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it's a human nature. We're the worst creatures on this planet, we're just the absolute worst.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hmm.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me to share your story, and just the variety that we all bring. Everyone has a unique story, Is there anything that you would like to leave, someone who's thinking, I might want to be a professional musician, I might want to travel across borders. Uh, what would you like to share with that person?
Well, I'd say if you as an individual, if you decide you want to work in the States, um, as a musician, or as an early musician, I'd say, because usually if you come as a kind of the normally trained, conventionally trained musician, then usually you play in an orchestra, so you have somebody working on a visa for you, and things like that. But if you're a person like me, a foreigner who wants to study early music, or work as an early musician, I should say, to work as an early musician in the States, make sure to really be well versed in how the immigration process works, because it's complicated. It's possible to do it. It takes a lot of work and also a lot of money.
Yeah.
To get that status. I mean, it's a visa and green card too, called alien of extraordinary ability.
Okay.
And that means that you will be competing in the same group as rocket scientists, as astronauts, as brain surgeons. So people like that who really matter for this country. So how do you prove as a Baroque violinist, that you are worthy similarly as these people, which you are of course not, because this people need this really, really highly intelligent people, in these fields, more than a Baroque violinist, of course, but so it takes so much to prove that. And there has to be a lot of bullshitting too, unfortunately, because you have
Yeah.
to kind of uh boast yourself up on paper, and for me that was extremely hard, because in my culture you don't do that at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very humble nation, and you almost you're not allowed to be. It's something that I love Finnish culture. I love Finns. I'm proud of where I come from, but one thing that's kind of not that great, in my opinion, is that you have to work really hard, but maintain your humbleness, to the extent that you're never really allowed to show that you're proud of what you achieved.
Okay.
So you just have to be humble, and never even tap yourself on the shoulder, for hey, that was good. I'm proud of what I did here. So then boasting
Did
about
someone have to coach you to draw that out of you as you were in the immigration process?
I learned it on the job, so to speak, and it was hard. It was so hard, because also asking people for favors to write these letters for me, and ask them specific things that they should boast about,
Yeah.
which was kind of fabricated in some ways too, and so this whole process was just super hard, and emotionally hard, as well as time consuming.
Oh.
And it cost a lot of money. So I don't want to discourage anybody, from doing it, but just to come with a realistic sense that it's gonna be tough.
That's great advice. And as an American and a Philadelphian, grateful that you did come, that you were able to get through the process, and that you're making music here.
Thank you.
So,
Me too. It was the best decision of my life to come here.
Thanks again for sitting for Expat Chat.
Sure.
For those of you who joined us, again, Marika has come from Finland to the US and travels the world playing her violin in Baroque chamber groups. And if you are interested in learning more, you're welcome to reach out to us here at Fluency Corp, and we'll be happy to connect you. And also, if you are interested in learning, communicating better with your people, the next thing that we're doing is our Spanish for HR. So if you're in HR and you have Spanish-speaking employees, the link that is on your screen will enable you to do a free class. So we'll hope to see you there. Thanks so much.